Welcome to the Rally Points podcast for the love and fun of tennis.
TUFTS men's tennis coach Karl Gregor is with us today, taking us on a deep dive into coaching and developing young student athletes. Karl is also assisting with the coaching of Danielle Collins.
So high, I'm hypnotized. What's up is down, what's left is right.
Making this happen finally.
Yeah.
Huh? It's been a little bit. You wanna? Is that mine? You can shut that one off actually. So a lot to talk about, man. We're gonna wait for Kevin and Mike, and but mainly what I want us to go over, kind of to have everyone understand the process of college tennis. Q's here with us. He's might have some questions there, but and also I want to talk about like the awesome job you've done with TUFTS, because that's unbelievable. You brought that team too. So I want to get into that quite a bit. That's the process and getting the weeds of that, and also the cool thing that you're training Danielle Collins a bit, and that's awesome, and your assistant too. Let's start with you being one of the guys that actually came back from a corporate job and everything to tennis.
Yeah,
You love it that much, huh?
absolutely. It was always the one passion, I guess. So it was kind of always looking for a way, and found that with a few volunteer spots in college tennis, and then the TUFTS thing.
The tough job, right?
Came around.
Yeah. How long ago has it been now? Because I know we took that.
2015 was when I was doing the assistant role for a few years, and then I got the head role in 2015.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So this will be my 10th season.
Wow. And you guys, so tell us a little bit about TUFTS. How was that process? When was the biggest? Give us a little bit about the whole.
Yeah, when I got there, we were sort of a perennial 20 in the country.
Yeah.
Between 20 and 30, sort of like in the New England Small College Athletic Conference, NESCAC. We were usually kind of on the 6th spot, which was just kind of making the conference tournament. And then, over a course of years, just implementing, what I wanted the team to be like, just some values, some, atmosphere, environment, and then also good recruiting. Slowly started to get a number of better players, and that changed the culture. And
that was a big factor, Kira, because I remember you were like looking for a specific player, looking for a certain player, and you were like getting after it. And
right. You get a lot of kids who college is sort of for them. It's like the destination, not the beginning of the journey. They're like, oh, I got to college, now I can coast.
That's interesting.
And you see so many of these kids who are good, good juniors, 4 or 5-star recruits, really solid juniors, and then all of a sudden after they commit to a college program, like they're not playing tournaments anymore. So it's it's like, well, what's going on? Do you not love tennis anymore? And for them, it's sort of like, I did the work to get into college, and now. And so you want the opposite, right? You want the kid who starts working their hardest once they get there, and really uses that as the training ground and the resources you have with a good coach, a good staff, strength and conditioning, and everything that goes into making a good player. Yeah, they can get there if they really choose to grab hold with it and go with it.
Yeah, we'll get into that a little bit deeper off in the weeds of that, but that's a good way to put it. So it's the destination, not the beginning of the journey. There, that's actually what you want from all of your players.
And after a number of years of coaching, you start to see that as a recruiter. You can kind of tell you this kid, he's showing some of the signs of someone who's going to just cash it in when they get to college, and then
you can feel that, huh?
Yeah.
You want a water, by the way? You got a water?
Yeah, sure. And there's a ton of little tells like that too. Is it how involved is the parent, and is a lot of time the parents leading the recruiting process? Yeah. To the point where I want him to these questions to come from, and them to, and that's a little bit of a red flag sometimes.
Definitely, and I actually see that because we go up to the high school level, but I'm starting to talk with them at that age too, because you want to see the the mature part of them and
Yeah.
the coming out. So that's obviously a big one. Before we get into like specifics there, why don't you want to give an overall of like, because there's so many conferences, so
Yeah.
many divisions and so forth, for somebody that does not know about college tennis, which is the biggest in the world. United States is the biggest, right, college tennis program in the
Absolutely.
world by a country mile. I mean, you want to explain a little bit how that works?
Yeah. So I think everyone's fairly familiar with D1, D2, D3,
Yeah.
even NAIA. What I didn't even know about D3 until recently, I think there's 352 schools with D3 tennis programs, which is crazy.
That's a big amount,
That's
man.
a ton. And, and to that end, there are high school teams in Massachusetts that are definitely better than
Yeah.
D3 college teams.
Yeah.
So it's a spectrum of abilities. But on the high end, where TUFTS is and the top 10 teams in the country, they all compete they would compete kind of in the 60 to 80 ranked team in the D1 in the country.
Oh, wow.
So maybe the low end of the Ivy League,
Yeah.
right now, I think if we played a Brown or a Dartmouth, it'd be a really good match.
Wow, that was not the case. That was not the case when you and I were playing tournaments and against
Right.
those guys. Yeah, there was
Yeah.
a different.
And
Wow.
then, right now the Patriot League, which is BU, Army, Navy, Bucknell, Lehigh, Colgate.
Yep.
Again, we would probably be right at the top of that.
Of that league.
So
Okay.
that's a D1 league. And again, it kind of, if you think about, if a school gives scholarships,
Yeah.
you're going to attract a higher caliber of player. You're going to have more international demand. But a lot of D1s don't give scholarships. So then what's the difference?
That's
Why?
and that varies school to school, right? And that's
It's school to school. It's basically a decision that the administration makes.
Yeah.
Where we're going to allocate scholarship money.
yeah,
And a lot of times tennis is the low on the totem pole there. But so again, going back to the full landscape, D1 down to kind of D3, there is a lot of overlap.
Yeah.
In skill level. D2 is the smallest. And I'd say the top 10 D2 teams are better than the top 10 D3 teams.
Yeah.
But then it drops off significantly. Like the
Gotcha.
number 20 D3 team, I'm almost positive will be better than the number 20 D2 team.
gotcha.
Just because, again,
Because you don't.
D2s are giving scholarship, but there's just a smaller pool.
Yeah.
And not as many of them.
And on the scholarship end there, what's where's Tufts rank into, like, do you guys give a bunch of
So
scholarship?
you
Like
get zero.
zero scholarship.
So that's another interesting thing.
Yeah.
Once you get into D3, you're very much on kind of the merit of the school. Like, so what can I offer a recruit?
Yeah.
If I'm not giving them money, we have an 8% acceptance rate. Very difficult to get
Yeah.
into. So I can tell a kid, hey, listen, like, if you were to apply on your own, you might be 50-50 or even worse. Chance of getting
which
in.
is fair. Yeah, that's kind of.
I can kind of take your application and tag it with admissions, and then I can increase your chances to close to 100. And it all depends on the
Yeah.
case, but I can do that for a few players every year. So that's like the little something that I can give, and then
Just good.
for people that they're willing. They really want a TUFTS diploma, because then when they go out in the job market,
Yeah.
the best companies want to hire TUFTS kids, and then they're getting good
Of course.
jobs, and so that's sort of how it works. Really, and interestingly enough, Ivy League D1 no scholarships.
I know that one, but Ivy League's
Yeah.
which is, but again, they do dangle that fruit of just
you
being
get
Ivy League.
you get that Harvard diploma, you kind of write your ticket.
Yeah, no
in a way.
kidding.
Though there is another caveat too, though, and it's one area that I've been pretty fortunate with TUFTS, and they have very good financial aid.
Oh, that's
So-
good.
So it's also something I have no bearing on.
Yeah.
If someone applies for financial aid, they're looking strictly at need, and they say this student has significant need. We're going to meet 100% of their need. So I have kids on my team getting $70,000, $60,000 a year in financial aid.
That's
which is-
amazing.
It's great for them.
That's great for them, of course.
And
yeah.
my team is more European than anywhere
Yeah.
else right now too.
yeah, I'm
And
sure.
so, a lot of these kids coming from, not poor backgrounds, but not really affluent
Yeah.
either.
Yeah.
There's no chance they're affording TUFTS, but they're able to get in.
Especially with the culture is in Europe at schools, it's not. The price of schools at universities is nowhere near what it is here. It's like a lot of the countries still have it paid by the state and subsidized by the state. So it's like when I went to college and when I went to top school, I was paid to get there. They will give you an incentive, monthly incentive to play. So it's the opposite here. So for them to come and get a scholarship in the United States for the price tag that it is in the United States, that's a big gain, I'm sure.
Yeah, it is, because to them, if you say $80,000 price tag, I mean, the parents especially just like laugh. They're like, "Are you kidding?"
Yeah,
like
yeah.
we can do it for $8,000 here.
Oh yeah,
and
easy.
So you really need to be able to, give them that help. And so we've been lucky with that. I'm hoping it continues. It could get a little tougher. This year it's already looking a little tougher. I am.
Yeah.
But
back to the full landscape of schools and so forth. Who are right now the top? You guys are in the top 10 in Division 3. Who are the D1 top schools these days? Like, it's still the same big powerhouses?
Yeah. So just this weekend is ITA indoors for D1. So it's Texas TCU, Wake Forest. Those are probably, like, a lot of people think the top 3 right now. Columbia's looking really good there, but I don't think they're a top 5. Columbia is probably the best they've ever been.
Okay.
Michael Zhang is their number 1. He won NCAAs this fall.
Okay, nice.
So they're top 10. Stanford's looking a little bit better. Ohio State's always been in the mix.
Yeah. Is Illinois still?
Illinois, not as good.
Not as good.
I mean, they're probably top 20, but they're not top 10.
Yeah, because remember, like 15, 20 years ago, they were the...
Yeah, they're the guys. Duke threw a lot of NIL money around this year, so they have some... they stole Harvard's number 1.
Really?
Yep.
Wow.
Rumored a couple $100K.
Really?
So they've got a good looking squad. Interesting enough, USC, UCLA down. They used to be the powerhouses. Yeah. They're a little down.
They always because of climate and everything else and the history there. Yeah.
I think Baylor, A&M, they're both pretty good. So those are who are looking really good in D1 these days. And we'll see who wins the indoors this weekend.
Is there a big amount of transfers? So like, is there a significant amount, or it's kind of like somebody goes?
This year in particular is the most transfers that they've ever seen, and it's in all sports because of NIL.
Yeah.
And we haven't really delved into the NIL yet. Yeah. Thankfully.
Want to explain NIL?
Name, image, likeness.
Yeah.
And we've seen it mostly in college football.
Yeah.
College basketball, where it's not uncommon for multiple kids on a good D1 football team to be making hundreds of thousands of dollars a year. And I don't completely understand how it works, but it's not paid out by the school, but it's a collective. And so these little collectives can form, and it's local businesses, it's donors, who knows, and they pool this money, and then they make
so it's
these
not
deals.
Direct. So it's not a direct.
Yeah. And so that's
paycheck.
What kind of the joke is too. It's like they say that the school and the coach is out of the loop, but
of course,
that's not the case.
Wow.
And so now it's starting. You start to see it a little bit with tennis too. And not every school has gone there yet, but you feel like to compete,
you have to.
It's going to have to happen.
You're going to have to bring it down.
And it's also made it a bit of a free agent market where someone could be like, "Hey, I played for you this year, but this school's going to offer me more. I'm going to transfer." And so that's one thing that's made it really interesting. And a second thing is that the NCAA has kind of been scrambling to change their rules a little bit in light of NIL. So they've changed.
They kind of have to, right? You kind of.
So they've changing roster sizes, and they've capped D1 tennis teams at 10 roster spots. So, but they've also said you can give 10 full scholarships. So it used to be 4.5.
Yeah.
So now it's 10. But the interesting thing is a lot of, I think the average D1 team is 11, 12, 13 guys.
Yeah.
So now you have those players don't have a home anymore times, however many schools. And so that's where we're seeing a trickle down a little bit into D3. I have a recruit on campus today who's at Clemson right now.
Oh, wow.
Clemson's top 25 in the country.
Yeah.
He sees the writing on the wall. His coach is bringing in 2 guys with ATP points next year. And he's like,
do that, yeah.
He's like, I'm number 7 on the team we're not graduating anyone, and 2 guys with ATP points are coming
Yeah.
in. Like, that's bumping me down to 9 or 10.
Man, that's gonna increase the quality there.
Yeah.
Big time.
So I think we're going to see these guys who are, D1 bench guys now maybe come to either D3 or go to these mid-major D1s
Yeah.
and not get scholarship money or
Wow.
less.
Yeah, that's definitely gonna change. It's gonna be an interesting
Yeah.
couple of years until things settle, right? And things.
Definitely.
Well, you're good. Here we go. Those guys are coming from the. Carl, right?
Yeah,
You guys
yeah,
say-
we
is
just
where's Kev coming?
Before Kevin's on his way up.
You're
yeah.
here.
Oh, there.
Yeah. And then, wow, that's definitely so. NCAA has to change some of those rules, right? To kind of now make it a little bit more lenient towards that, right?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, and because scholarships are almost less important now.
Yeah.
Because the school's gonna, pay for my tuition, room, and board. Maybe at Penn State or one of these Ohio
Yeah.
State, maybe that's $50,000 a year.
Yeah.
But then I'm getting $400K. What's the $50,000?
Yeah,
mean
gonna
to
do
me?
for I'll pay for that if
Yeah.
I'm getting $400K.
So I think they're doing it because they want to maintain some
Yep.
sort of control. Honestly,
Exactly, yeah. And you see that, across most sports now, at least the predominant sports.
yeah.
Right?
The big,
yeah.
I think basketball, football, it's like every starter's got a deal.
Yeah.
Tennis, it's pretty rare. I bet there's only 20 guys in the country in D1 tennis who have a deal.
They have a deal.
Maybe 30.
Because you think the popularity of the sport growing so much now, global, that's
Yeah.
gonna attract. Some
And way more college. You see way more players in the pros who played college.
Yeah.
Too.
Oh yeah,
Just because
Yep.
coaches are making it as a legit pathway. We're like, hey, I'm gonna help you get to the pros. You're gonna play 3 challengers or futures during the school year, and then all summer you're gonna go nuts and
Yeah.
play futures. We're gonna fund all your training.
And they can do that too.
Yeah. And so it's like, I get 4 years of free training, and this coach is going to help me, make it on the tour. I can get stronger, faster, work on my tennis.
There are a lot of
all
those
while
guys, yeah.
playing pro the whole way leading
Yeah.
up to it. And this guy who was it, Jake Fernley from TCU last year.
Yeah.
He's
British guy.
Scott.
Scott. Yeah.
British guy. He had a great transition. You've seen obviously Shelton.
Yeah.
But a number of guys are making that transition.
It's also, I think, do you think is the lifespan of the tour is expanding a little bit now to train.
Yeah.
So now you don't have that short window of you don't have to make that decision when you're 18. Do I go pro? Do I go
Thinking
to
like I'm done
college?
when I'm
Yeah,
30.
yeah, exactly. Or like 26, 27.
Yeah.
Like on your way now, you can go longer. So those 4 years of college are becoming now quite a good training ground there for you.
And if I can get paid.
Exactly.
If I can make $100K when I'm 19, 20,
Yeah.
am I going to make $100K on the tour?
Yeah, man. Yeah, let's talk about that, right?
Paying for all my expenses.
Yeah, and have all my
everything
expenses
like that, right?
paid.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's an interesting. That's gonna change it. We're talking about the landscape of college tennis and everything else, and we'll kind of go like in the, athletes being able to make some money now and so forth. So that's gonna change some stuff. And now specifically in you guys, where are you guys now in D3? TUFTS is you top 10. Like where
We're number 3 right now.
3 now, right?
Yeah.
How do you feel good about the season?
Yeah, I graduated no starters. So,
Wow.
So I thought last year by my own standards was a bit of a disappointment. We had the talent to
Yeah.
maybe not win it, but maybe. It all
Who's
depends
there?
on who comes to play in those
Yeah.
big weeks at the end of the season. And we had just a couple of players who they weren't all there, man. They were
Yeah.
a little low on confidence. I think they knew they hadn't done everything they needed to do over the season to feel like they earned
And it
it.
shows up, and you know it. It shows
Yeah.
up in those big matches.
Absolutely. And so, and then this year though, already the fall was dialed.
Yeah.
So far this spring, the guys are on their own for a couple weeks. It's really all business. First week of practice, normally it's kind of we're working stuff out. These guys are look like they've been at it for months already.
That's amazing.
Really, really professional, really high level, really
Did you have
sharp.
a chat with him the end of last season?
A little, but
Yeah.
at this point too, they kind of.
Yeah.
I don't need to say much, which is
Yeah.
nice. They
That's good.
they know.
Yeah.
And again, so you can you can put everything in place, but then there's so many things that go into winning a championship in any sport, right? There's so much luck. There's so many things that have to come together.
It's just
so
a couple of moments they can define that. Yeah.
Your guys' league prepares you really well for
That's nice
any
too,
type of
right?
Like that's playing. You have such high level teams in your guys' league that it's you can put that league into some Division I conferences and they would do really well, right?
That's what Karl was saying now that the top 10 D3 is like 60, 70, and
I would definitely say that.
That's here, Kevin. All right, we got a full that one. I want to thank everybody who's here on time.
Lots of breakthroughs.
Do you guys follow that guy who's on Instagram now, Coach Casey?
I see some of the clips that they makes
He's
fun,
pretty
like
funny.
some parody stuff. Yeah.
Because he's like, he's kind of like a country club pro, and he's always talking league doubles. He's pretty funny.
So now onto your team there and what you guys are doing and specifics on what are you coaching them and so forth. Like, let's start first with you're saying that most of your team is international, and let's talk a little bit about that. Like, how do you see the differences between obviously a U.S. player? What are you looking for in a player? What do you see in an international player versus U.S. player, and what makes you make those decisions? And
and it's not by design.
Yeah.
Again, I if you look at my recruiting, I'm probably like 80% domestic. I'm spending most of my time going to the tournaments in the U.S., emailing, having conversations with kids in the U.S. And a lot of these European kids kind of come to me. That, either by these agents in Europe who little consultants or intermediaries who will call me and say, "Hey, I got a guy. Would you talk?"
is there a lot of that? Is that
there
a
is.
big?
It's Tim Donovan.
Yeah.
Donovan has a service like that.
Actually, we talked about him not too long ago because I actually meant to text you about him, but then we
and so there's a bunch of people who have these little pockets, these little services where they're like, I'll get you to play college tennis in the U.S. Pay me $3,000 and I'll put you in touch with some coaches and help you navigate that. And so, there's a bunch of, I get tons and tons of emails from people like that every year. And I've just happened to know that that's a little bit of a sweet spot. TUFTS is a school these kids like. They know they can get the aid, as we talked about. They like Boston. A kid is looking at.
That's another big draw.
Yeah.
It is.
City.
Easy to get in, get it home too, right? Like if they need to, or
plus, they there's academically some of these schools like a Williams and Amherst and Middlebury, amazing academics, but you put a kid up there, they're like, where am I?
Yeah.
I'm in a farmer's field. I didn't come to the U.S. for.
which happens a lot. Happens a lot. With they end up somewhere in Kansas or something.
Yeah, they have no idea what's going on. So anyway, that's helped a lot. And then but the thing that I have found that I like a lot about many of these international kids, and it's not that the U.S. kids don't have it, but it's to a lesser extent. I find the maturity level is just a little lower. The worldliness, and these kids have been playing, maybe ITF juniors all over Europe. It's no big deal for them to travel a little bit on their own. They're
experience different cultures,
experience different cultures, maybe be slightly more responsible on their own for their own kind of stuff. And I hate to say it, they're tougher. A little bit. They're a little bit tougher.
Especially if you come from a country that does not have necessarily all the.
Oh yeah, and I mean, and it's kind
You're talking on the court or just overall makeup of
more rugged.
Huh.
I've had multiple times in the last couple of years, which I love because the opposite is so true. The way kind of culturally things are, especially in sports where we're coddling and we will never say anything bad. I've had my guys come up to me and be like, "You need to rip our shit."
Yeah.
Today was bad. Let us have it.
Yeah.
And that's from an international, those are the
and
guys that are.
and I will. I have no problem.
Yeah.
Reaming them out.
Yeah.
And kicking the shit out of them. The next day on the court, and they're like, "Yep, this is what we need."
Yeah.
And they're like, "Yeah, this is like."
That's mature for somebody.
Yeah, they're
to
like if you know what my dad would have done if he saw that tennis match.
Yeah.
And he's like, "You would have hit me."
Right.
Yeah, that's true.
It's a little different perspective.
Yeah, I mean, you need a good read on the personality of. I guess part of recruiting is that too, not just the tennis, but I mean, you get certain personality types that are going to kind of shape your team a little bit too. So there's got to be like, feel like you got to get to know them a certain amount before.
That's such a good point.
You know, if you want to have that culture where the guys feel like, you know, we're going to go out against whoever, and we're like, feel like we're tougher than these guys.
Yeah.
And that's, you know, if they take pride in that, then, you know, that goes a long way.
Already
it gives you a lot of confidence.
Of course, you're a different human there when you're confident.
Yeah. And so that's one thing. Another thing that's been really cool is because, you know, I have a number of Americans, but they're also pretty spread out. You know, California, Colorado, you know, New York, and then a bunch of internationals from everywhere. Like, no, there's not like a pre-existing clique of like, we all knew each other from the juniors. We're gonna hang out.
Yeah.
Or, you know, I know some other guys at TUFTS because they went to my high school. Not really. Like, so when they get to TUFTS, it's like the tennis team are the boys.
That's
And they hang out all the time. They really create a much more of a sense of family.
That's awesome.
And that helps a lot too.
Right?
Yeah. Especially if you're traveling with each other a little bit here and there, you're on the road a little bit. I feel like that's like creates some bonding experiences too.
Yeah.
You know?
Absolutely. And, you know, all college teams are that way to some extent, but yeah, they take it to the next level, I feel like.
Do a lot of them live together, and most of them,
So after the first couple of years, you can choose to live kind of off-campus housing.
Yeah.
Even in the dorms, when they can live together, like their sophomore year, they'll choose to room together. Right now, there's 2 houses, and I think there's like 8 or 9 of my guys living in 2 different houses
off campus,
and then all the underclassmen come to their place and hang out.
Yeah.
So it's very much that vibe.
What do you find the best tools for recruiting for yourself? It's not in general, but like, do you like to see the player? Do you like videos? Do you like what's the process for you?
Yeah. You know, initial filter, I'd love, you know, sometimes I'll get an email and a kid will say, here's my, you know, UTR or this or that. And that's nice. That's a little tiny bit of a filter, but I definitely, then my next question is, do you have any video if you didn't send any? And obviously video, you can choose what's to send.
Right.
So I can get an idea and, you know, obviously we can all look at a kid and like, okay.
Yes.
And I find myself much more now looking at the way a kid moves versus his strokes. You know, I'm just my eye
footwork
immediately goes to the feet. You know, how does this kid, you know, recover? How is his first step? How is his balance? Because you know, I've had enough kids who have had really pretty strokes and they move like garbage, and it's like it just doesn't equate.
Doesn't matter. Yeah.
So, and then I'm hoping to get to see him live. It's tough with internationals. You know, sometimes I'll just have to get like video of a full match or something because you know, they're not coming over here. Once in a while they'll come over, and I'm not going over there, unfortunately.
Yeah.
So, and then, you know, once you've vetted, you really think their tennis is solid, you know, then you're looking at, you know, for me, I'm looking at, you know, their ability to develop even more, and I guess it comes down to like their passion as a tennis player, like how hard are they going to push themselves because they love tennis,
right?
You know, or are they already sort of burned out,
right?
Yeah. And
you feel like you can get a good sense of that from talking on the phone, email, like that's a hard thing to judge, right? Yeah,
and they try to trick you for sure.
Yeah.
Because they know the questions, they know the.
They try to sell themselves. Yeah,
that's
right. It's a game.
So So over the years, I think I get a little bit. There's little red flags that it's not even in. It's just the whole vibe you get from a kid.
Right.
And in my brain, I'm like, God, I've been doing this for such a long time. Like, you start to see a pattern with, you know, he may have said the right thing, but like I don't feel it.
Right.
Yeah. So you have to go with your gut instinct.
It's funny because that's I mean, maybe some people have plans playing afterwards, but for like a lot of kids, like leading up, that's their whole goal is to go play college tennis, right? So it's like, you know, you go one of two ways there. You've been pushing to do that, and now you get to do it, and it like opens up this whole new world. Like you've achieved your goal, or like, I don't know, maybe you get there and it's like you can have a little bit of this factor of like, all right, well, I'm now playing here, and you just can almost go through the motions, you know, like all the work like that you've been putting in, you've now achieved that, and like maybe you're, you know.
That's what Karl was saying before you came, that it's a very interesting point there, that he's looking, for some of them, the college is destination or is the beginning of the journey there.
Right.
Such a cool point.
Right.
So you look at that. That's awesome.
And that's a cool spot to get someone if they're just like they've been waiting for that. Now it just opens up. I mean, definitely maybe different pressure, but less pressure than like what you're growing up in and your schedule of your parents and playing with people you've already played. You get this whole new group of people that you're playing with. It can be like for some people, it's like what a great time to get a hold of someone. There's like they might be ready to just explode in all these different ways.
For sure. Yeah, and that's the hope is you get to someone who's just like willing to go nuts and
You get duped?
Yeah, that's why also I'll recruit. I'm usually bringing in 3 or 4 kids a year, so you can be wrong with one, hopefully not more than one of them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so you still get 2, maybe 3 kids who are pretty solid.
Yeah.
What's today's college athlete like? Do you find that distracted by today's world's distractions, social media and everything else? Are they even evolving on that and they self-determined, they don't care about it? Like, do you find that being a challenge there? Or
it's a little, I haven't found it to be detrimental to the point where it's taking away from their tennis. But there's like, we'll go, I'll have a team meeting and maybe we'll be like, we're having one later today in like a big film room. And I know I'll walk in and half of them are just going to be like this.
Yeah.
That's just
the way it is. Yeah.
I know. I have a rule, like when we're at practice, like no one's phones are out, of course, but like, I think 5 years ago I might have pushed a lot harder on it. Now I'm just like,
Right. It is what it is.
What it is.
Yeah.
And so, they're maybe a little distracted, but they're all pretty driven in the same way in terms of they want to go to a good school so they can have a prestigious institution that helps them in the next phase of their life. And not only that, they want to excel in the school. They need to get good grades. So, when they're interviewing for a job, like, oh, you're on the honor roll. You got a 3.6. So they all, they want to excel in school so they can have good job opportunities. They want to excel on the tennis court because they wouldn't be on the team. I wouldn't let them on the team if they weren't that way. So it's good kind of that they kind of keep each other accountable and that, they're pushing each other both on the court and then in school, when you're surrounded by a bunch of guys who are like going to the library and doing your homework, like, shit, I really need to be doing this too. I can't be wasting too much time playing video games and doing Instagram.
Yeah.
Well, it seems like it's, certain schools, in order to even get into them, you've had a record of knowing how to carry yourself academically. That it almost that part. I mean, maybe an adjustment of doing it on your own, but I think some of that they would have kind of figured out at. It's not an easy school to get into, so it's not like they don't know how to devote time to their studies or whatever they might be doing.
Yeah, you'd think about that age they kind of made a decision. You're not a kid anymore. Like you determine the rest of your life, but based on how you play, how you
Sure. I was that age too. I didn't make that decision. I wasn't at TUFTS either.
Well, number 1 URI, man. Come on.
Yeah. Not quite a scholar though.
They dropped their team.
They did.
When was it?
I don't know. Maybe about 15 years ago. They still have a women's team, but it's amazing. My daughter goes there now, and they've built up their tennis, like their the nice little area to watch and stuff. And it's like they did all this work, but dropped the team.
They don't have football either
because it doesn't.
Right?
Oh, they have football.
Oh, they have football.
Yeah,
I didn't think they had football.
That
takes a lot.
Those tennis that schools do that because it doesn't seem like it takes that much to. The school's not providing a bunch of equipment or all this stuff. You just
not
need
doing scholarships.
You just need a coach who's
like
ready to
$500,000 or something. You could run a team.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure what.
Yeah, the Title IX comes into play though, right?
Yeah.
Like that's a big when you do have a football team, right? That means you have to have a women's team for every member of that football team or whatever it is. So I think that could be. I didn't think they had football. That's why I was surprised that they wouldn't.
Yeah,
that is a good point though.
What's now you're gonna start your training process and what's your goal with those guys initially? Do you go a lot of hitting? Do you try to balance the physical part too? Do they have to do stuff on their own? Do you is this a lot of
So this time of year, it's all pretty much with the team.
Yep.
There's a couple of them who are gym rats who like want to still get the biceps.
Do you pay attention? Do you pay attention to that? Because that can go one way or the other, there, right?
Yeah, if they
Get
get
the biceps.
if they get too beefy, like it's not good.
Flexibility, yeah.
But so a few of them will do a little extra time in the weight room, and that's a good point. I should probably keep an eye on that. But yeah, like very little technical stuff.
Yeah, you don't
anymore.
go technical.
A little in the fall.
Yeah.
You know, each guy has his own little thing we might work on.
Do you zone in if you feel like you need to?
Yeah, and
address
really
something?
just freshman and sophomore year.
Okay, interesting.
I feel like so hard with a senior to at the risk of hurting their confidence, make a
Yep.
You make maybe the tiniest little technical tweak.
Yep.
But so little technical stuff for the younger guys, mostly in the fall, and then once we get to the spring, like I really try to get a strong base of just both physicality and endurance. So we're doing 2 times a week, 6:30 in the morning, and then we have practice later in the day.
Yeah.
So that's just like we're gonna go do sprints, we're gonna do the assault bike, we're gonna do medicine ball, just something where they at the end of February they're like, damn, we did it 2 times a week for the whole month. Like I feel like I'm pretty I've earned the right to
also to boost the confidence,
Yeah.
right? When you feel good.
Is that just you, or is that strength and conditioning
just
too? Or it's you. But, okay.
And they are going to strength and conditioning once a week.
Right, because I'm sure they have a program set up for them as well, right?
Yeah. So that, and then honestly, as much competitive point play as possible.
Yeah.
So I'd say on any given week we'll do some rhythm stuff because everyone loves the rhythm, but I'm always trying to create an environment where they're under stress, they're a little uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And and when they're competing, like I don't have a ladder where I'm gonna say you beat you, you're ahead of you, but like they all know I'm watching, I'm taking note, and they're all competitive guys. They want to win, so we're like competing a lot. And I've got them to also buy. Like no one likes to play your teammate,
Right.
Yeah.
but I've convinced them that it's a really good thing.
Yeah.
It's like the more that you play against this guy and are uncomfortable and not feeling good out in the tennis court, that's what it's going to be like at the end of the season when you're playing the toughest teams in the country. We need to replicate that as much as possible, and so I'm trying to do that all the time.
Yeah.
And then show them that the margins are so thin, like the shot selection and just doing the smarter plays, being just one ball tougher than the other guy instead of like kind of bailing out and going for that slap winner.
Yeah.
Let's play another ball and go through a little more pain because he's feeling the pain too. So just over and over with those kind of concepts is what I'm doing earlier in the season.
Yeah. That's awesome. Do you hit the mental aspect a good amount if you need to, or you feel like you've developed big time, right?
Yeah. There's one guy that I've really come to like. His name is Anthony Ross. He's Australian. He has a really simple definition of mental toughness that I think is really easy to apply. And like, I've read about it. I did it in college for years and years and years and around tennis, and it was always somewhat just nebulous to me. And like, what mental toughness is, but like achieving it is really difficult. And so it's 2 sentences. It's the ability to become present, followed by the ability to commit to a helpful action. And so as we break it down in between points, really, and so it's almost like a mini meditation.
Yeah.
5 seconds, and it can be anything. It can be focusing. You can feeling your breath. It can be feeling your strings. Like I actually do it now too because I want to see if I can do it.
Yeah.
So I actually look at a spot on the court. I'm just sitting there and I like stare at a spot.
Zone in on that.
And so what it does is it empties your brain.
Yeah.
Okay. When you're meditating, there's no thoughts in your brain. So effectively, if you can empty your mind, and then a committed action can be a lot of different things. It can be a strategy. I want to play, a very smart, aggressive style. I want to play lockdown. It can be a body feel. I want my body to feel light on my feet and fast. I want on this point, I want my arm to feel really loose and free. So it's unique to everybody, but it just needs to be a commitment. And so we're becoming present, we're committing, and then after the point's over, we just ask ourselves, do we do it?
Yeah.
And a lot of times it's no.
Yeah.
But then at least you recognize it, and then you go, be present again, you commit again. And so doing that over and over and over, you know, if any of us played a really competitive match where we felt something was on the line today, we might be able to do it like 25% of the time. Because we're going to forget, like, big points come, we start thinking, like, oh, what's Lars going to think when he sees how bad I'm playing? Or, you know, what am I going to tell the guys? Or I suck, this guy sucks, the wind, the sun, like all those things that go through your head.
Right?
You know, that prevents us from doing it. So the more you practice it, you know, I tell my guys, it's like, you know, if I want you to get to 100 push-ups, you know, you can do 40 right now. What do you need to do? You need to do push-ups every day. Yeah. It's the same with this. You need to practice the routine every day. And if we can get 500, 1,000 reps of your between point routine, you know, by the end of the season, you should be able to do it 50% of the time.
Yeah, and they must respond well to that too.
Yeah, they do. I think they get it. And a lot of them start to see it in a match, and they'll be like, "Yeah, coach, it actually works." I'm like,
yeah, and they buy in. Yeah, once you see it's working, now you're like, you're all in.
But it's cool too because you see guys like Novak talk about it all the time. Yeah. He just talks about it in different ways, and you can even see the top players. You know, their little quirks are them just going through their process.
Yeah, of course.
You know, like Nadal picking his butt or Roger doing this. This is all their own process of becoming present in their mind. And, you know, so everybody kind of has their thing. And so, you know, it's being explained. This isn't the end-all, be-all way, but this is just the way that resonated with me.
Which is makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, and I think it's really helped with my guys a lot because they get it too.
So important, right, to kind of develop a frame of confidence there and mental confidence in those matches, because you're by yourself there. And if you give them those tools to help themselves, even a little bit, that can make a difference in a match. Yeah, and
it's amazing how many times as a coach, all I'm saying, I'm like, hey, you know, what's your commitment? Like, right there.
Right there.
And it cues them back in, like, right, I got to do this. Yeah. You know, I don't have to even give them the coaching because I trust that they know what their commitment is. And so that's another thing that just simplifies.
That's big. Do you have them, like if you come across a good book, a podcast or something, do you have them take a look at it, or you kind of synthesize what you see in there and try to relate it to them? Do you do any of that?
I'll send a lot of like Instagram like things I'll see to the team. Like this part of the season too, I make each class do a presentation. You guys all know Craig O'Shaughnessy. He's the ATP statistician. I'm sure you've
probably
heard of the guy. He was on Novak's team for a couple of years. He has a
now I know.
He's awesome.
That's
too.
That's when Novak was going deep into data
he's
analysis.
He's a huge stats guy. He has a website called Brain Game Tennis. So I make one class, he has like 50 blogs. It's probably worth it for you guys to check it out. Brain Game Tennis. The blogs are free, and they need to come up with a 20-minute presentation on like statistics in tennis that they think are meaningful to us. And then one group I make do the mental training. So I make the kids present to the rest of the team. Yeah. I'm making the juniors do a presentation on doubles, again, probably tactics. And so a lot of it's stuff that I would share with them, but instead I'm turning it around. I'm like, you're going to.
So now you become
you're going to teach us, but I know what they're going to teach.
Yeah. That's a good way to do it.
Yeah.
Make them part of it. That's really smart, Karl. How about on kind of closing the loop here on preparation, everything else? Do you talk with them a decent amount, because we all know that age, we've been that age, it's about sleep and obviously nutrition? Do you go any of that, supplements, if any? Do you do any of that stuff, or not really?
Sleep, like just you know, when we're getting down to like match time and we're like, hey, we're playing in 2 days, and you need to 2 nights before and the night before, you need your 8 hours.
So they're aware of that, right?
The food part, I'm not the best at. I could probably use an assistant coach who cracked the whip on that a little bit more. Yeah. You know, we don't go to McDonald's or anything like that. You know, but then I don't know if they know. That's probably the more important thing, is to really give them a better base of knowledge of
how their body reacts on a different food, and how, because everybody's different to it, how the brain reacts on a, you go heavy on carbs, you might feel good, but your brain might be foggy, or the opposite, you might feel good, you might be burning carbs, really, proteins. Yeah, so I've always wondered, like, where is that at that level? Because you see it at obviously the ATP level, all those guys are like kind of dialed in at least, at least top 50.
It makes sense, because I feel like I want to do everything at that ATP level.
Yeah.
But I'm not doing the nutrition.
Well, there's only that much time you have, especially in that many players.
And resources,
And resources, and actually that's a good point though. Resources there for you guys, because I know you guys are doing a lot of, try to do fundraising and all that stuff. And is that a challenge for you to? It's
become less. The longer you're at a program, the more you get a bigger alumni base that and the more, it's just a little easier to fundraise. So it was definitely earlier in my time there, but now I've started to get to a place where I can comfortably fundraise what I need each year, and kind of go above and beyond with what a normal team would do. We're doing.
That's awesome.
Just I have a lot of good resources. I feel like
it's great
to do that stuff.
That's awesome. And you guys got new courts, right? Not too long ago. That must be good too.
Yeah, it was in the school facilities. School picked up the tab for those, which was nice.
Yeah.
But 8 courts, play site, great scoreboard, great lighting.
Oh, you got play site too then?
Yeah.
That's great.
Really good.
So that helps you a lot too. It must be
for recruiting too. You bring kids out, they see it. We hosted the fall ITAs this year, and all of New England came to our courts, and everyone was like, "This is
not so good."
Yeah.
So I'm very happy with that.
An indoor facility.
Yep. Indoor, most of these schools have kind of the indoor track. Curtain goes down.
Yeah.
But I like our courts. It's a real slow surface, which is better than some of them you get ice rink fast.
Super fast, yeah.
Yeah, and it's slow, which is it's better to train on. So it does the job. It's pretty good.
On the specifics on doubles, right? Because it's not as heavily weighted in points and so forth. But you must go heavy. Now, you're a good doubles player. You're a singles player too. But do you go a lot on that? Do you focus a lot on that, or not as much? Because it's not as
we rep. The stuff that you'd guess. Obviously serve's important in both.
Yeah.
So serves we're repping no matter what. But a lot of returning, a lot of servers partner. We do a ton of servers partner, because in doubles it's 70% of the shots are 1, 2, 3 points over.
Yep.
And really making sure that the serving team is very locked in on, maybe 2 specific plays to the deuce and the ad. We're doing this play as plan A, this one is plan B, same to the ad. And if for some reason neither of those are working, maybe coach will come and tell us a plan C.
Yeah.
But you can usually put the strength of a first serve and a server's partner against almost any return and still come out on top.
Yeah. So you focus on that a lot, obviously.
Yeah, and good old Jamie Saratani, right?
Yeah.
He's sort of on staff.
Oh, good.
And he's been helping us the last 3 years. He'll come to practice, and
That's
I'll
awesome.
just hand him.
I haven't seen Jamie in a while. Yeah.
Yeah, he's still around here and there. And he'll go nuts with the doubles guys, and they love it. So that helps a lot too.
Anybody has a win over Federer can in Basel, right? And they win that in
probably. Did it be in Basel?
I think it was in Basel. Yeah.
Home tournament.
Yeah, doubles. Yeah, I think it was a little while ago, but I still remember that one because we're chatting with him afterwards, and he was talking about how I think it was a wild card or something, or he got an alternate in, and it was one of those stories. But that's big. You had some questions on the recruiting process, and on TUFTS. I have a couple more, but
I was just wondering how much you look for them being a part of a team before they get to TUFTS. Are you looking at that at all, or would you say the majority of your players don't play on a high school team? Or
I don't really. Yeah. But all the things you would be kind of getting to in terms of the traits of being on a team, I still try to vet them. Yeah. And kind of talk them through what the team experience is like and what's important. It's not.
Yeah, because I imagine that's a little bit of an adjustment for an international player that maybe hasn't been a part of a team coming into a team setting in the United States, and adjusting that way, right? Like trying to get the right personality in there and everything like that, right?
And you do get, some growing pains with some of those kids early on where, they have to figure out that they have to give a little bit. It's not just about me anymore.
Right.
Mm-hmm. That's a big one, right?
Yeah.
That's a big one.
For sure. And a little stubborn, a little selfish maybe. So we break those things down.
Yep.
Do you get over the years, right? You've been 10 years though, kind of shifting away from college. Do a lot of those guys try to keep going? Do they try to make a push to making a pro? Is that you see that a lot from TUFTS, but also obviously we see it.
There's been a couple of D3 guys. Well, so right now there's a guy who played at Case Western, and he played all 4 years at Case, and he's using both you get 2 years of COVID eligibility.
Oh.
He's at Virginia now. His name's Hopper. Can't remember his first name. But he's playing 3 and 4 at Virginia.
Oh, wow.
And they're top 5, 6 team in the country. Right. And I think he wants to go pro.
Yeah.
The kid who played number 1 at Bowdoin last year is at USC this year doing a COVID year.
Yeah.
He might.
Yeah. But not many of your.
So no, none of my guys have.
It's a big jump, right?
And they've all been pretty career driven.
Okay.
We had a local kid named Isaac Gorelick. He played one for me, graduated in 22.
Yeah.
So he went to Stanford to get his master's in computer science, and he played at the team at Stanford.
Oh, wow.
Which is pretty
no
cool.
Kidding.
And, he's another one who could have maybe chosen to give it a go. And, this kid, he had a 36 on his ACT. Right. He got into Stanford.
You have a tough education.
And he's just
right?
I'm going to work, man.
Yeah. I'm not gonna go play futures in India and chase some points.
So these guys
are tennis on the weekends.
I shouldn't say sadly. I would have loved to have seen them, a few of them try, but they all went the route of kind of the next phase of their career.
And also, if you are at that level, you know the commitment, financial time, and everything that it takes to make that jump. Not that it's not possible, but it's a big jump, and the commitment to stay in that middle of just
and the chances are
exactly
% or something like that, right?
Yeah.
To even Danny Molosky has a job next year.
Yeah.
And he's won a couple futures.
Yeah.
He's playing one at Harvard. If that guy's not making a run at it,
it's such a exclusive club there, man. To be in that, even to be in the top 500, to be in the top
these days, top 500.
That's you'll take that, right?
Really, really tough.
So let's shift a little bit to you training Danielle Collins a bit. How was that like? Let's start with that.
Yeah, and again, so I'll tell you how it started. So 2 years ago, I had an assistant coach, Omar El-Kashen, Egyptian guy. He was the assistant coach at Harvard Women's. He came over to me. And Sloane Stevens moved to town because her husband was on the New England Revolution.
Oh, yeah.
So I think her first call was to Andrew Rube.
Yeah.
And Andrew's like, none of my guys are around or unavailable. Try Karl Gregor.
Yeah.
So we get the call, and I have her start hitting with my number 1 player in the summer.
Yeah.
And they work out, maybe once a week. She really likes him. He's a good hit for her. And then when Omar starts with me in the fall, there's a few times when she needed a hit and no one could do it. I'm like, oh, Omar, can you jump in with Sloane? And so that happened, and he went full time with Sloane, and she moved to LA. So Omar moved.
Oh, wow.
Now you're out assistant coach.
I was out assistant coach, and he says, Karl, I've got this guy Adhem Gaber, who I recruited at Southern Baptist University in Missouri, who can be your new assistant coach. He just graduated from Tulsa. He transferred to Tulsa, so really good player, UTR 12.5. And so back to this summer, Danielle tells Sloane, I'm moving to Boston. Mm-hmm. Who do I hit with?
Yeah.
He's like, oh, Omar will tell you. And Omar's like, call Karl.
Yeah.
And so she comes to campus last spring, hits with one or two of my players, goes off playing event. Back in the summer, I hit with her a few times to warm up for Wimbledon. Comes back this fall, is like, hey, she's dating a guy in Boston.
Yep.
And then she's just texting me a couple times a week. I need to hit today. I need to hit this day. I'm setting her up with guys. So I'm not so much training her. I'm more or less giving her people to hit with. Once in a while, she might ask, like, what's a good drill?
Yeah.
And so then fast forward a little more to right around Thanksgiving. We're going from outdoor to indoor. She doesn't really love the courts at Tufts. They're too slow. She's like, I'm getting ready for Australia. And so then I'm having my guys, I'm taking them over to Winchester, and she's kicking the shit out of them, first of all. She's not like a friendly, she's just like,
she can hit the ball,
bashing
man.
them.
She rips that ball.
This is a brutal session. We get to finals week, and the guys are like, Coach, I'm like too busy. I'm not gonna Uber up to Winchester to get my ass beaten. Maybe I'll walk down to Tufts courts. And so then I tell Adam, like, Adam, you're going to Winchester. And
that's so your current assistant coach.
He does a few sessions with her, and then she's like, I want you for the next 3 weeks every day, and I'll pay you.
Yeah.
And he's like, done. Yeah. And then,
Carl's again without assistant coach.
He's moving away. Yeah.
And then luckily I found there's this family in Dedham who has a private court at their house, and I arranged for them to start using that, which she loves because it's really close to where she is.
And it's more intimate. She's not
super
distracted by
no one's around.
Yep.
And so they're actually there today.
Yeah.
Doing a hit with one of my players.
Great. She had a great year, man. Last year, and even
unreal.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
She's playing free, huh?
Hopefully she can replicate it.
I'm sure. Well, she won. What did she win? She won last year. She won. Did she win
Charleston and Miami.
Miami and then Charleston. And they were like different surfaces, right?
Mm-hmm.
Back to back. That's pretty.
Yeah.
That's pretty good. And this year at Aussie Open, she lost to Maddie Keys.
Which in hindsight,
yeah,
which
tells a lot about like Keys' run, dude.
Right.
Beat Danielle Collins, beat Rybakina, Iga, and Zabalenka. That's like
that's the toughest draw you could have got.
Yeah, it was somebody else too that she had a tough 3-setter with or something. That was another big name. Which I mean, sure, Danielle has a good match there, then she can make that run.
Yeah.
When did she get to the final of Aussie? Was it
22?
22.
Lost to Ash Barty.
She was up in that second set, wasn't she?
I don't exactly.
I think she was up 5-something.
Yeah.
I thought she was gonna win that. I was hoping she was gonna, because she was bashing the ball that
time.
tournament.
With her, it's just kind of like, it could be any given tournament, right? If she just catches fire, she has the ability to hit someone off the court. Right.
Well, I'll take it if your guys are like, I'm not hitting. If your guys are like, you know what? That's awesome. So now, she's around there. She's been a top 10 player. Then what's psychology of a top 10 player? She must be like fully like locked in there, right?
Yeah, that'd be a better question for my assistant, because he kind of lived it with her down in Australia. But I do think it's just getting their mind right for the moment. Yeah, like whatever it takes. I think with her, she might like a little bit of fire, maybe a little bit of controversy, kind of like Novak.
To get you going.
To get you going.
Yeah.
She finds ways to do it too, right? Like to bring that out. Yeah.
And it's really just, how do you, I think they're just always looking for confidence. Can I get it out of practice? Can I get it Adam told me, like, she played doubles and she had a great, doubles match at Aussie Open. He's like, I think her winning that doubles match gave her the confidence for her next round of singles, which really made her believe that she could just go out there. So there's many different ways to kind of manufacture, but that's probably what they're at that level really looking for in the moment.
Again, is that 1% better that day, right? That's 0.5% better, because you're it's such a high level. Anything can make a difference, man. Yeah, the American women tennis is like, it's powerful.
One of the top 10.
That's and Danielle Collins is right.
Number 11.
11, yeah.
No Williams, like like that's.
Yeah, that's. Yeah. And if you look, maybe in top 20, pull the WTA. See how many. Okay, we're gonna make you work a little bit. See how many American women are in the top
I'm interested
100.
to hear Q's process with his commitment.
Yeah.
His process is a little different. I don't know if he pauses and reflects.
yeah. He will after this.
Yeah.
That's a whole story.
Smash and grab.
Where, let's talk a little bit professional tennis. A little bit. Did you see? Speaking of American women's, and now I'll go back to professional tennis. Was Anisimova was also ripping the ball today. I saw her.
Yeah,
She was
who
playing.
did she beat? I saw her highlight yesterday.
In 3 sets, she won against a big battle, right?
Yeah, it was I forget the girl's name, but yeah.
And then she was up 4-2 or 4-1 on.
And she kind of
Alexandrova?
she was out of the top 100 last year, right?
Yeah, I think she has an injury and she took a little break, but she can bash the ball too, so she's like another threat too, man.
Yeah. Kennan's back doing something.
Yeah.
Playing decent.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, do they both have slams? I know Kennan has one, right?
Cannon has one, but Anisimova doesn't. And
She's gotten deep.
she went deep. I remember one year she beat Halep like probably after the year after Halep won the French Open or 2 years after that, and she cleaned up there.
Yeah, it's funny with Maddie Keys too, because I remember it wasn't last summer; it was 2 summers ago, maybe Cincinnati. I was watching a match, and then the stat line came out. It was a 3-setter, but she had 57 unforced errors, and I'm like, how the heck
Yeah.
is that? And I've talked a lot more about women's tennis since being introduced to Danielle and with my assistant, and like we've deduced that they have only one game plan.
Yeah.
Like I think on the men's side, there's a little bit more of a plan B or a change up, and they just
sticking
need
to
that
that.
ball,
Yeah.
and they're gonna hit it
Yep.
and hit it and hit it. And if it's not going in that day, I'm still gonna hit it.
Right.
And like that stat line goes back to me because she did so well on the Aussie show, and I thought back to that other match where she was like hitting the ball just as hard.
Yeah.
She just was missing all of it.
She can hit that ball, man.
Yeah,
Maddie
and I
Keys
think
can
a
hit that
lot
ball.
of girls are like that.
Yeah.
Like where it's like, this is what I'm
That's an
doing. I'm
interesting
not
point,
going to
yeah.
try to like finesse the ball or add too much more shape.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, that's where it's at. Did you see? I just saw U.S. Open changing
the mixed.
the mixed
yeah.
to the week before.
I talked to Saratani about it yesterday.
Yeah, and
They're doing mini sets too? Did
Yeah,
I see?
mini
And like up
sets.
until the finals or something?
do you think that that's a move? Because in the last few years they've been trying to expand that fan week. They
Yeah.
try to make it a 3-week slam there. So I think it's also like a business decision there
Absolutely.
too, right?
Yeah.
Because now you can charge a little bit more for tickets. It used to be free.
Well, they're not making that much money, right?
The U.S. Open.
Make it longer, make a little more money.
Dude, now you make it a
Because
3.
they last year they had over 225,000 people on site in that first week.
That first
And
week,
you're
yeah.
paying $18
TV
for
rights.
a beer.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
That's like
28 for a mini burger.
Never mind. What's their drink there? They have that's a
honeydew.
yeah. That's not a cheap cocktail.
So I think I get why they're doing it because now they said it's going to be a 16 draw, 8 wild cards.
8 wild cards.
Yeah, that is.
So they can they can put together the teams that are going to sell on television.
Mhm.
And their whole thing is this kind of screws the players over, but of
course it
it's
does.
going to get more eyeballs into tennis.
Yes, of course.
You mean it screws people that are
the
playing
doubles-
mixed consistently?
Yeah, double
right?
specialists
Yeah.
especially.
Yeah.
What's the format? It's a different
16 now, 16 teams.
format? No, but mini
Sets to 4.
Sets to 4
Now,
until
can
the
that be sanctioned as a?
Good question.
You know what I mean? 'Cause
until the
that's-
final,
Does it
right?
count toward ranking or
or
something?
the first 3 rounds.
But
Yeah,
who
can-
even?
What is? Yeah, I don't know what
Counts ranking
it
in
goes
mixed.
to a certain time, and then the final is going to be played.
think it's
2
gonna
out
be
of
regular,
3,
yeah.
right, with the breaker
Yeah.
or whatever it is.
Yeah, because that's not. They don't count the points for the next gen because they play sets to 4, right? And because it's not a true score.
Yeah, and I
That's
don't
all
think
one.
anyone really cares about their
No.
ranking.
And they have $1 million for the winner, right? That's
Yeah, especially when you have like a Fritz that will play this
Yeah.
that wouldn't
As a
play
prep.
before, right?
because
Like,
everybody's there.
yeah.
Right.
Everyone's there for that.
Yeah, and like it's
Yep.
a 3-set match to 4 is going to take me an hour and 20 minutes. I'm not like
Yeah.
sweating that too
Right.
bad.
Yeah,
That
they're
could be-
looking for like hour time frame. They said for each
Yeah.
match,
Yeah.
basically. It's
That's one way to look at it, right? You can shrink those stuff because they try to make it a little bit more. They did that with the regular doubles too, with the 10-point break and everything else, right?
No ad.
It's-
Is it no ad too? I don't know about the U.S. Open. I mean, I think a lot of doubles is no ad.
Yeah, a lot of the tournaments depends. It changes. What's your take on Sinner and his stock men's a little bit? And
yeah, I heard from an interesting source that this guy who is somewhat close to like the ATP world, he said Sinner might be out for a year. I was like, what?
Well, really?
Like his WADA is gonna
Oh, they're gonna do that.
They're gonna re-look at the case.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, the guy seems pretty unbeatable on.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Hard court.
He's ripping the ball.
Yeah, I like it. I think it's his personality's a little, but in a way that could be kind of cool if you get like if him and Alcaraz come to the top, you get like the Borg McEnroe-ish kind of stoic versus
entertainer.
Really, so it could be a cool, that'd be a neat rivalry to.
I think it will. And there's a couple others that will come. And I heard Cahill, who I deeply respect, man, when he was talking about Sinner, and he was talking about how he had a discussion with Agassi, and Agassi made a very interesting point there that at this level the Sinner's playing right now, every shot that he hits, it's a threat. It's no more setup shots, no more
from any point of the
from
court,
any part of the court, any point in that rally, he can go for it, and that's a tough threat to be against every single time. You're not safe on any balls. Like that's tough, man. Going out there's like this guy can put that ball away from anywhere. That's an interesting point there.
Yeah, under some pressure,
and it is from like a match management perspective. Like I've noticed a few players, even in like the college ranks, who were a little bit of a threat, like they hit kind of a flat slappy, and it's like when I hate taking unnecessary risk at the wrong time.
Yeah.
And like if it's 30-all and you are outside the doubles alley and try to rip a flat ball down the line, I'm like, I'm gonna kill you.
Right.
But, but if you're down 15-40 returning, and you're maybe up in the set, and you do that shot and make it, it sends a big message.
Yeah.
It's kind of like it demoralizes the other guy. So if you are able to do that at the right times in a match, maybe
kickstart a little bit.
You rip a second serve for a winner, and the fact that Sinner can do that is very mentally demoralizing to players.
Look at the probably the most two famous rippers on down 15-4 is Djokovic against Federer.
Yeah,
the one at the US Open and the
Wimbledon
final. Yeah, 19. That when he was Federer was up 40-15, and he just
boom,
just went for that shot. That's a good point there. Yeah, that's a. How's your tennis game, buddy?
Paddle tennis is okay.
And I want to get into paddle there too. Yeah, paddle, padel, pickle.
The platform. I've played a little of the padel, but tennis I still play the Longwood tournament. That's kind of my only competition a year.
Yeah,
and made the doubles finals 2 years ago. Made the semis this year, so I can still hang on the doubles court.
Yeah, of course you can. You always
singles a little slow.
Longo's got a good.
They got some players. Yeah,
they got some players. Yeah, I was there last year, and it was very it was an active community. It was like a little late September, so, and it was courts are full.
It's a fun spot just to go on.
It's a beautiful spot.
Summer night. There's always courts are filled.
Yeah, it's a summer night, and it's good. And your platform. How's that? How the guys doing, man? I miss the gang.
They're good. So the truck stop team, which then moved to Needham, they're at a really big down year because everyone kind of like I left to go to a different team.
Yeah.
Christo left. Another guy went to Chicago.
Yeah.
Andy Gauthier hurt.
Is hurt.
Tom Nolan only plays like once in a while. So,
Select. Yeah.
So they went from like dominating.
That team dominated for like
to a little bit down, but
I guess the rest of the league is happy about that. Yeah.
But I don't win nearly as much as I used to.
Well, you're the one that got a bunch of us in, man. You recruited us from because you also created the Boston Pro League too. How was that? How long
That was
15 years ago.
Yeah, I think we started in 2009.
Yeah,
I would love to rebirth that one day.
Well, let's talk.
Just from a organizational standpoint.
Yeah,
I think you need a gravity of good local players who can put on a good show, but. I think getting the money now, I could have no problem. I could easily raise 10K, 15K in prize money.
Yeah, that'll be fun.
People would be excited.
It was great, man. That was a great initiative that you guys did, and it was fun. It was fun for most of us to go out there and play. And all right, the big question: what's your take on pickle these days?
Pickle?
Yeah.
I mean, I teach 2 PE classes at Tufts. That's part of my contract.
Yeah.
And pickle's one of them.
Oh, really? Do tell.
Yeah, I don't think you're gonna catch me
Yeah.
playing much pickle.
Yeah.
But I get the allure, and I don't know if it has the sting. I mean, we'll see. You know, we're in the middle of it right now to see if it's generational. Is it just people like 50, 60, 70 who are pressing it, or is it gonna like really take hold with 20-year-olds, 30-year-olds to kind of to endure?
Yeah, I think that is a good point. It is a little bit of an older demographic. That's where the big numbers are. You're not gonna get too much of your 20s and 30s, but yeah, who knows? I think it's gonna be a good thing for tennis, for racket sports in general. If you group racket sports in one big lump there, that's just a good little addition there for that to expose.
Yeah, that's been. We should talk about this, and I think a number of people around the Boston area have had these visions for years, and just real estate and development is way too expensive.
It is,
but like I think it'd be so amazing to have, 6 indoor tennis courts, 4 platform tennis courts, 4 padel courts, and 8 pickle courts, all in one spot.
The same, yeah.
You know who's doing it is Kingsbury down in Medfield.
They do.
They have everything except the padel, and they're going to build the.
They're going to build that too.
But it's like pretty remote.
Yeah, right. You want to be fairly central.
You don't draw from the city.
To drive from here to the city, it's almost an hour.
Yeah.
So if you for years people were looking around that 128 loop, where could we put something like this? And it's tough. We could put it there. $20 million for that property? Not going to happen. It's just you just can't find the business model to make it work.
That's the challenge too in the tennis world, especially here in our area, with the real estate being so highly priced.
Yeah, and it doesn't. When you're on a hour per court basis, you just can't get the revenue to make it quite add up. And so, other parts of the country where it's much cheaper to get land, or when you're primarily just building an outdoor facility.
The energy cost too. Yeah, that's massive. Because here, that's the challenge, man. 6 months out of the year,
warming this place up, right?
You have to warm it up. You have to keep it lit. You have to do all that stuff, and that's okay. Where's your business on that one?
But yeah, when we built the new Tufts courts, the town said no pickleball.
They did, right? There's a lot of that.
That was an explicit.
They do back up to kind of that neighborhood there, right? Yeah,
that noise can drive you batty. Yeah.
There's some I think litigations.
Really?
With towns, there are some people complaining, and I think there's some the restrictions on hours and everything else that comes with it.
I can't see why they don't just invent the pickleball. That's quieter.
That's the idea.
Get master to work on that, right?
What are your calls for the rest of the American players and the rest of the field there on the men's side and women's side? What do you think? How do you think the year is gonna unfold?
I really like. I don't know if anyone. I mean, people say Fritz has got the best chance. Obviously he made the final last year. I still don't love his game as much as some of the other guys. He just has maybe the firepower, but like I feel like give Shelton a few years, he might I think he can mask a few of the weaknesses, and he's got enough firepower to maybe.
He does have explosiveness.
Maybe
he does
sneak one out. I don't know if Tommy Paul's got the firepower to ever hit through a Sinner or a Alcaraz or.
I like what he started doing last year. Remember, he's doing the Indian Wells or Miami. He started coming in a bunch because he was watching a bunch of old school tapes. It was actually falling really well. He kind of, went back to his style.
But he's I think everyone loves him. People would love to see him win. But so for American tennis, I mean, I think we're in the best shape we've probably been in 20 years. But a slam,
that's tough.
That's going to be. It's going to take Sinner or Alcaraz not being in the tournament and then maybe someone getting upset.
Yeah.
You know, so it could happen, but a few things are going to have to fall in place, I think.
And what's this? What do you think the battle Alcaraz and Sinner there on Grand Slams? If was that going to be the next? I mean, it is already up there.
Yeah.
But
I mean, who else is coming up? Is that Pesha card guy looks? Who knows?
Yeah, we
He's
talked about the
too early.
Too early, right? Yeah.
You know, Zverev's what, 29? You know,
Somewhere.
he'd have to like,
somewhere there.
you know, he'd have to get some belief to get into that equation, but he hasn't won one yet.
The final, that was sad. That was sad to see because it was a one-way traffic there in that Aussie Open final, right?
So yeah, I don't think, you know, I think they've separated themselves.
They did, man.
Enough to where I don't think it's going to be a three-way like we had with the big three anytime soon until somebody else really maybe emerges. But yeah, you'd have to guess, you know, who is it? Alcaraz the favorite at both French and Wimbledon?
Yeah,
probably.
Right. Probably. Yeah.
And then U.S. Open, you'd go back to Sinner again.
Yeah, hardcourt. It's got to be some surprises this year. I feel it's going to be some.
Yeah, I mean, I always do a bracket with you know, a bunch of guys, and like the amount of times I'm wrong.
Well, tennis is one of those sports that you don't do it any given day. It's just right.
Yeah, like Michelson had a good turn, right? He's he could be an interesting American.
Yeah.
God, he looks doughy to me. Like he does not look like an athlete, right?
I think he's still developing.
Yeah.
He's still like, but he's tall too. He's 6'5". What is he? Yeah, he can hit him.
He could
hit a big ball, man.
But yeah, I'm not feeling Tiafoe, unfortunately.
Yeah. No, I think it's you know, I always said this, man, that I feel like we need, and Shelton did that last year and 2 years ago, and I appreciated that. A lot of those guys need to go and play clay a lot. Mm-hmm. So you extend that point, and you go deeper into a rally. You can develop, you know, the shot, your strategy, everything else that comes with it. Because if you stay in average on hard courts and grass to some extent, your average rally is like 3-4 shots.
Yeah.
You're not go on clay, and that doubles sometimes. You know, so you need to get those reps in, the footwork and the recovery and the endurance that comes with that, because
just know you're gonna have to work a little bit more.
Because if you look at it for the past 20 years, every number one has to be good on clay. Every threat, if you have to be a threat on clay to be able to be, it's almost like that's the baseline, and then from there, like you transfer to grass is a tough one to transfer to, but transfer to hardcourt, transfer to grass.
I mean, and if not for Nadal, Roger was good on clay.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
He won a lot of clay tournaments.
Oh yeah, man. He was the second one on clay for like the longest time.
Yeah.
And then
yeah, it just brings out, you know, a little bit more variety, a little bit more creativity.
That's the thing. The Golden Swing is going on now. I caught a little bit of Navone and Rune last night. That was Rune did his typical like got in the tiff with a fan and just a little bit in the
not a fan.
The chair umpire was like, "Hey, you're a professional player, man." It's kind of like
It's been happening a bunch lately, right?
Yeah.
Like and a few guys got penalties. I remember for like didn't Opelka a couple weeks ago get penalized for like
did he
telling a fan to go F off?
Did he?
Yeah.
I mean, you got to have a thicker skin than that, man. I mean, come on.
Right.
You
know what you're signing up for.
That's what I mean. Give me a break.
Go to any other sporting event.
No kidding. No kidding. People are screaming and yelling at you.
Go to Super Bowl. Go to
Right.
Yeah, you gotta be.
Do you remember? And again, it's a touchy subject, but when Osaka had the breakdown when a fan was like mean to her.
And I know she had a couple, but I didn't know that one specifically.
I think she defaulted the match.
Oh, wow.
This is maybe in like, it might have even been like 19 or something.
Something. Yeah, somebody said something to her.
Somebody said something, and she kind of like broke down. And then in my mind, I'm like, well, shit. If I'm playing Osaka, I'm just gonna pay my buddy.
Yeah.
Say something, and then he'll kick him out of the thing,
and I'll make
all the money.
all the money. Yeah, that's right. That's
like,
right.
Jeez.
But maybe just as tennis players, you don't see it enough, so you're not used to it. In other sports, it's just like you're getting a constant
And I
barrage
guess
of it,
it's-
and but
it is directed a little bit more
a
specifically.
little more
Yeah,
personal,
one.
but still, I mean, if you're playing a professional sport,
That's
you
why the
think
mental
that
part is
you're-
so important.
I
to
heard.
have that.
I think
It's almost like you'd have something else going on.
Yeah,
and
probably.
There's
That one
just,
that's a good point.
Yeah.
It's not that comment there. That's just the
Tipping point.
yeah.
tennis is,
Yeah.
I think, one of the most highly bet on sports in the world, and you can bet on like the UTR PPTs now.
It's crazy.
Like, so I had my number one player a couple years ago playing a PPT at the MAC, and
Really?
guys were betting on it, and he upset like a good 13 UTR D1 kid, and in his next round, he lost and he got trolled online. So I was like, you little bitch.
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
and
Right.
people were betting
Yeah.
on him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
we talked
they
about
said,
that. Yeah.
"Oh, he's
Yeah,
this."
people start losing money on you, and all of a sudden they really hate you. They really have something to
And
say.
it's nuts that who's like, where's this guy, and he's
Yeah.
betting on this little tournament.
Can you even watch that? Like
don't
you
think
know,
it's even streamed.
right? That's what I mean.
Yeah.
Like,
You're way into it. You are way into it. You have a lot of other bets going on too. You're like,
They, Caroline Garcia and Hashanov, and those guys raised that point at the U.S. Open because they lost early, and they actually put a couple of show some messages they're getting, and they're talking about like why are we promoting all those betting sites, and because you see them everywhere. You see them on the tennis channel, see them on all that stuff. So that's it's tricky because now you have a different. It's not even a fan.
I guess
we talked about that.
right.
that makes sense. It's the most bet on because it's happening all the
All the
time.
time.
There's so
All
many
over the
different
world.
You get the
whereas
It's so tough to bet. There's
Yeah.
one-on-one sports or anything. I mean, you could have a bad meal. You could be a fan. Your chicken was undercooked, and you're out there. It's like there's so many different variables. Like where your team sport, there's so many players involved that it's
it can balance.
but one-on-one, man, that's so tough to predict. I think. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's like I wouldn't want to be betting on anything can. There are odds, obviously. Most better players going to win most of the time, but. Dude, I'm not throwing my money on anything one-on-one, dude. I don't know what each of them were up to the night before. Or what the hell happened? No way.
This poor player, man, didn't know that if he loses the next day, he's gonna get.
Right. Yeah. It is crazy, but the no stopping it now.
No, it's the gates have opened.
No.
It's like
No.
it's everywhere, and tennis in general, man, is making a lot of money. Tournaments are making a lot of money. It's a tournament every week. That's
that's
big
where
money.
the question is, compared to other pro sports, the percentage of the revenue that go to the players is the least.
yes,
Why
Yeah.
is that?
yeah,
I mean, at the top, there's still it's the guys 100 to 500 who need the money.
That's the one. They started some initiative on that, but it's still not enough,
Yeah.
right? Because those tournaments. We'll see if we can find out what's what U.S. Open made last year, because we keep trying to hit that. That's
Point something, right?
Wait till they
The
make
winner,
it.
no, the whole tournament.
total purse.
Not even total purse. How much money the tournament?
Revenue.
Yeah, the
of
revenue.
Wow,
Yeah.
it's like way over $500 million, right?
It's got to be somewhere there.
Wait till they make it a month-long event by
Find it.
adding
Tell
other
us.
lead-in weeks.
It's 472 million.
Yeah.
From the tournament. So
Yeah, that's
When you know where that money goes, the USTA,
yeah,
the nonprofit,
the nonprofit.
sits
Yeah,
on that,
yeah.
and I mean, I guess you can argue the U.S. tennis isn't getting better, but with that much money,
when you're
Yeah.
making.
Well, was a big scandal, right? Not too long ago. Was that he gave Jose Guerras's letter there?
Yeah.
They cut down the player development or
Right.
something like that. I'm not sure where that stands, but that was something
remember that. I
about
read
that.
that.
Yeah, that's interesting.
what's also really interesting is that both Pegula and Navarro are billionaires,
Yeah,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
it's cool to see that.
yeah,
in a
they
way,
work hard, man.
Yeah.
That they
I like
had the
Navarro,
money,
yeah.
and they decided I'm going to go
Yeah.
after it anyway.
Yeah, you got to go. Pegula, she grinds, man. Like,
Yeah, man,
just
they-
like that's that. When you're a billionaire, what does she need to do that for, right? She
That's-
could be
that's-
doing
says
whatever
even
she
more,
wants
man,
with
yeah.
her life. That's what I mean. I give her a lot of credit.
There's back a little bit to Osaka. What do you think is gonna make a bit of a comeback, or
Yeah, what is she, like 26?
is that yeah?
She won her first couple when she was like, when was it? When did she beat Serena? Was that like 2018?
I think it was,
Somewhere there,
yeah.
yeah.
So it's 6 years later. Yeah, she's probably like 25.
Do you feel like you step away from the game? There's a certain period that where it's harder and harder to come back to the point that's.
I would think so. Like
right?
I feel like I felt that for sure when Roger tried to come back, and then when Nadal kind of did to him. Like once you take that time off,
yeah,
like
the tour moves.
The tour moves. I think
yeah.
your cachet and the fear that people had of you lessens. Yeah. You know, you're a tiny step slower there, a tiny step faster, then all these little margins just build up against you. I don't know, like I don't think that Osaka's interesting. I think she could come back and.
Well, but thank you. This was good. Appreciate it. Yeah. Thanks, man. It's fun. I know you got to go, but
tell me before we go, do we like the mascot?
The mascot grew on me.
I just. The elephant, it's the jumbos.
Yeah,
right?
the jumbos.
Is that?
It's. I think once you kind of get the tops, people.
They do. Okay.
You kind of
That's it. All right. Thanks, Carl. Appreciate it, man. Thank you.